Welcome back. You're watching News X. I am Rishabh Gulati. Ladies and gentlemen, as the British historian Simon Sharma would put it, history is about incremental change. Things that happen slowly over a long period of time that pivot us from one direction to another. Rome, they say, wasn't built in a day. But every once in a while, as we see it, as we live the present that becomes the history of tomorrow, there come moments when something turns. Something is markedly different than yesterday. In the present generation, from where I am sitting in New Delhi in India, we have seen a very patiently, long drawn out but consistent effort that the world's richest and one of the oldest democracies and the world's largest democracy should come together to form a global order. The global order, as we recognize it, was where it was frozen in 1945. Post that, the Atlantic Charter signed between a British Prime Minister, then Winston Churchill, and a US President set the tone of affairs. The Bretton Woods system, the United Nations organization system, set the tone of how the world would be governed. But the world is no longer the same. It was barely 2 years after the end of the Second World War that India became independent. 2 years later, there was a revolution in China. And through the course of India's complex and early history, the United States of America, which played an important role in global diplomacy, securing the end of the British Empire all over the world, took a side. And the side was Pakistan, which became a CENTO ally. So in a previous generation, my father's generation, that saw the difficult wars with Pakistan, all of which India won, but also remembered a US president sending the 7th Fleet into the Bay of Bengal to support a military dictatorship in Pakistan. But like I said, this is a new generation. I, sitting here, have been a strong critic of what has been taking place in China. India and China have an existential border crisis. It's existential. We are talking about tens of thousands of square miles of land from Aksai Chin and the Chinese claims all over the 2,500 kilometer border. So ideologically, structurally, none of this should make sense. For the first time, in the better part of 8 years, an Indian Prime Minister is currently in the city of Tianjin, which is just a short distance from Beijing, and he will be meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. He is also going to be meeting the Russian President Vladimir Putin, who of course just a few weeks ago was in Alaska meeting with President Trump. For all the people in this country who have been telling us, people from a generation past, who have been telling us, be wary, don't trust the Americans, don't trust the Americans, don't trust the Americans, they now can't comprehend that over a war in which we are no party, nothing to do with us, we are being punished, quote unquote, with 50% tariffs. There are administrative officials of the Trump government constantly disparaging India in public. And something which has never happened, even Nixon didn't go this far, is to host a Pakistani army chief in the White House. So let me set up the premise of this conversation as such as we open this up to our guests and of course my colleagues who are there in Tianjin. The premise is this. Let us say that in a very nice parkland area, might be Central Park in New York, might be a lovely natural reserve in Yellowstone, in a lovely valley during the summer months with the sun shining and the daisies blooming. Families are out on a picnic, husbands and wives, newly married couples, children are playing. They're all sitting around and laughing. Then a few guys come with AK-47s. And they randomly walk up to these couples and ask the men, "What's your name?" as a description of religion. When they're not convinced with whatever answer they get, they then ask those same men to quote from the Quran. If they're further not convinced, they then strip the men naked to check if they are circumcised and then shoot them in the head. And when the wives who have just been widowed with their blood splattered hands and clothes ask, "You've already killed my partner, why aren't you shooting me?" those men then say, "Go tell Donald Trump," and walk off to shoot the next. Now I tell you what the reaction of a country should be to this. The reaction should be, we shall smoke them out, and for the rest of the world, you are either with us or against us. That's exactly what the reaction should be. But instead, the person who was the mastermind to this, running these terror operations in a country that is well known to run terror operations. We all know where Osama bin Laden was found. We all know where Mohammed Atta, the 9/11 attacker, was before he went to Germany, then on to the US. Everybody knows it. It's open history. The military chief of that country is sitting and having dinner in the White House. For people like us, this is incomprehensible. We can't understand what is going on in global affairs. We can't understand what the situation is. We are trying our best. But what you're watching on your screens is the impact of it. That's the Indian Prime Minister in Tianjin having a welcome to the sound of a sitar and a tabla being played by Chinese women before he beds in for the night and meets with President Xi sometime tomorrow morning.